Today, we celebrate Special Needs Awareness Sunday. In truth, we all have special needs and gifts, and Jesus calls all of us to know, love, and serve Him. The Special Needs Awareness Committee at St. John and Paul Parish is composed of individuals with special needs, their family members, friends, and others who have an interest in supporting equal access to all. When you leave Mass today, you'll find that the centerpiece in the Evangelion is two-page fold on all that's going on with the special needs organization. It would be worth your while to take some time and look at that. You may be being called to a special service yourself. And as we dive into the Gospels, keep those with special needs in mind in answer to the question, Lord, who is my neighbor? In the Gospel reading today, we heard, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the greatest and the first commandment. The second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. I would like to share a story with you similar to one that Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI used in his book entitled, What It Means to Be Christian. It goes something like this. A young man, rather eccentric looking, wearing an old brown suit and holding a small worn suitcase, walked into the center of town, looked around the town square, and then looked to the skyline. Fixing his eyes on the closest church steeple, he immediately made his way to the front door of the rectory beside the church. He knocked on the door and asked to speak to the pastor. An old white-bearded priest then came to the door and showed him into the sitting room. When asked, how may I help you? The young man rose to his feet and immediately stood on one foot. The priest asked again, how may I help you? And the young man said, I've come very far and wish to settle in this town and join your church. However, first I would like you to instruct me in the entire faith as I stand on one foot. The priest looked at him through time-worn but wise eyes. He smiled and said, love God and love your neighbor. The rest is all commentary. At that, the young man settled into the town and joined the church. Benedict goes on to explain, and I quote, being a Christian means having love. That is unbelievably difficult and at the same time, incredibly simple, close quotes. It's difficult to most of us because we have not yet experienced the Copernican revolution. That is, many believe and sometimes act as if I am the center of the universe. It's all about me, sometimes. Even in the act of contrition, we talk about at one point, we are sorry because we dread our loss of heaven and our pains of hell, sometimes. But Benedict tells us being Christians means having love. Now, before we go any further, we need to understand what Jesus means when he uses the word love. That little four-letter word, love, is used in many contexts. We talk about loving our dog, or loving strawberries and ice cream, or loving a member of the opposite sex. When we use the word love like that, we're expressing our affection and have warm feelings for whatever it is that we say that we love. Because we associate the word love with affection, it's no wonder we have difficulty loving people who annoy us, or those who have hurt us, or those that we don't think deserve love. Thomas Aquinas defines love as willing the good of another. Willing the good of another. This means willing and acting for the good of our neighbor, of our brothers and sisters. And what is the greatest good that our neighbor might have? Their ultimate good is their salvation. Using this definition, we come to the understanding that loving somebody is willing and acting on their salvation. When the Bible talks about love, it primarily means to love that a love that keeps on loving. It means commitment. We have warm feelings of gratitude for God when we consider all that he's done for us. But it's not warm feelings that Jesus is demanding of us. It is stubborn, unwavering commitment. And it follows then that if we love one another, including our enemies, it doesn't mean that we feel affection for them. Rather, it means commitment on our part to take their salvation seriously, just as God committed himself in taking your salvation seriously by sending his Son into this world to suffer and die for us. Today, if you are at all as concerned as I am, you have to wonder what is going on in the world. Now, I tend to think of myself as a positive person. And I know there have been difficult times in the past, but none like this in my lifetime. Look around. Just take a moment and consider a disease that has killed hundreds of thousands of people here in the United States, the coronavirus that has almost brought this country to its knees, a scourge that has killed millions of babies. Abortion takes the lives of around 1 million babies a year just here in the United States. Corruption in the church, everything from a clerical misconduct to conflicted teachings that has led to many to confusion and some even to despair and separation. And a society and a world that embraces licentiousness, lawlessness, pornography, promiscuity, and violence, along with political deceit and treachery that has seriously divided a people. It becomes obvious what St. Paul was talking about. In his letter to the Ephesians, my brothers and sisters, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. St. Paul is talking about Satan and his evil spirits. And if you don't believe Satan is real, just look at the places where he has become most obvious. The tremendous attacks on the church, the serious immorality prevalent in our society, and especially the horrendous and appalling politics of our day. Now, please, don't become alarmed. Oh no, here we go again, politics from the pulpit. No, that's not where I'm going. Being a Christian means having love. Love God and love your neighbor. If you love God, you follow his will, all of his teachings, including all 10 commandments. If you love your neighbor, you will actually will his good. Do something to help with his salvation. As far as your own salvation, well, that's why we cannot be divided. We must be one body in Christ. I don't need to talk about the upcoming election because your conscience has already been formed. You understand what Pope Emeritus Benedict meant by the non-negotiable issues of dignity of life, sacredness of marriage, and religious liberty. And you also know what Pope Francis and the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops meant by calling abortion the preeminent issue in this election. No, I don't want to talk about politics. I want to focus on your salvation. Coming face to face with the Lord our God and hearing those awesome words. Well done, my good and faithful servant. Enter into the joy of your master. This goes so far beyond the upcoming election. This goes to the heart of who we are, what we believe, and who we have allowed our neighbor to become. Remember, it was Cain who asked, "Am I my brother's keeper?" after taking Abel's life. The answer was obvious in the consequences Cain received. Pray, Lord, that I may learn from my brother, as the blind man said to Jesus, Lord, that I might see. Love, commitment, is a deliberate act of the will. To love means deliberately to turn towards another person in their need and somehow contribute to their salvation. There's no greater love than to lay down your life for another. It doesn't necessarily mean you must die. It just means you may have to experience a little death to self for the salvation of another. You and I, we are chosen people. Not better, please hear me, not better, but chosen. You are here at this very moment in time for a reason. You are blessed to be Catholic for a reason. You are here to make a difference. Maybe a difference in one person's life, maybe a difference in the community, or maybe in all of society. But you are here at this moment in time for a reason. Not just in this election, but in all that we do, we must truly believe in Jesus Christ, communicate what we believe, and live what we communicate. When it comes to taking a side, I have taken my side. I've come to the place where my faith is in Jesus Christ. And while it is a given to say, Jesus, I trust in you, we often say, Jesus, I'm counting on you. But we also must recognize that Jesus Christ is counting on us. Jesus Christ is counting on you and me. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. We have become so terribly divided, and Jesus told us a house divided cannot stand. It may just be time for a revolution. We must just get brave, take a deep breath of faith, call a truce, and find a better way. What would Jesus do? He would love first. Being Christian, being Catholic, means having love. Love God and love your neighbor into salvation. Praise be Jesus Christ,
now and forever.